Welcome to a new e-learning paradigm, a plusmap.ai.
Today we're diving into a big one from economics, monopolies. And it's more than just giant companies. It's really about understanding how a whole market works when there's basically just one player calling all the shots.
Absolutely. And our mission here is really tailored to help you, master the essentials of monopolies. So whether you're prepping for, say, the AP economics exam or just want to understand the world a bit better, we'll unpack the main characteristics, look at how these firms act differently than others, and really explore what it means for businesses and, yeah, for you, the consumer.
Yeah, and honestly, by the end of this, I think you'll have some real aha moments. This isn't just theory. It's like super important for understanding market structures and how real-world economics plays out every day, affecting prices and products. So let's start thinking about this. Imagine a world with just one company, maybe Unicorp, selling something totally unique and essential. What does that even look like? Okay, let's unpack this. The basic definition first. What is a monopoly? Fundamentally.
Right. So at its core, it's a market structure where you've got just one single seller, and they're selling a unique product, something with basically no close substitutes.
One firm, one big boss. They control the whole market for that thing.
Exactly. That one big boss idea is key. It really sets them apart. There are a few defining features. First, like you said, one firm controls the entire market. Simple as that. Second, the product is unique. No good alternatives. If you want it, you go to them, period. Third, and this one's huge, really, really high barriers to entry. We're talking barriers that are sometimes just impossible for new companies to overcome. Think massive startup costs, patents, government licenses.
Right, not like opening a cafe, more like starting a whole new power grid.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Or competing with a drug company that holds the only patent for a critical medicine. These barriers keep competitors out.
So, okay, they control the market. No one else can get in easily. That means they're not just taking the market price like in perfect competition, right? They're a price maker.
Exactly. They are price makers. That's a crucial term, especially for AP Econ.
But hang on, if they make the price, couldn't they just charge like $1 million? Why ever lower it?
Good question. They are price makers, but they're not all powerful. They still have to deal with the market demand curve. And that demand curve, well, it slopes downward. Meaning, if Unicorp wants to sell more of its product, it has to lower the price. To attract more buyers, the price needs to come down. And here's a really, really critical point, something you'll definitely see again. Their marginal revenue curve is below the demand curve. Always.
Okay, why?
It's because of something called the price reduction effect. To sell just one more unit, Unicorp has to lower the price not just for that new unit, but also for all the previous units they could have sold at the higher price.
So dropping the price for everyone drags down the extra revenue they get from that one extra sale.
Exactly. It drags down the marginal revenue much faster than the price itself falls. This is a big deal for how they behave.
Okay, right. This is where it gets really interesting, looking at how demand and marginal revenue work together, or maybe against each other, in a monopoly. You said MR is below demand, MR is less than price. Can you maybe walk through that price reduction effect with like a quick number example? Because I feel like that trips people up.
Absolutely. Let's stick with Unicorp and their unique widget. Imagine they sell one widget for $9. Total revenue, $9. Marginal revenue from that first one, $9. Simple. Now, to sell a second widget, maybe they have to drop the price for both to $8.
Okay, so total revenue is now 2 times 8, which is $16.
Right. So what was the marginal revenue, the extra revenue from selling that second one?
It went from $9 to $16. So
Exactly.
Yeah,
$7, even though the price of the second widget was $8.
because they lost $1 on that first widget when they dropped the price to sell the second one. $8 minus that $1 loss is $7.
You got it. That's the price reduction effect in action. And it keeps going. To sell a third widget, maybe the price for all three has to drop to $7. Total revenue goes from $16 to $21, 3 by $7. The marginal revenue of that third widget, just $5.
That drops fast.
It drops faster than the price. And eventually, if they keep lowering the price to sell more, marginal revenue can hit 0. Or even become negative. Selling another unit could actually make their total revenue go down. Yeah. So graphically, you see that downward sloping demand curve, which is also average revenue and price. And then the marginal revenue curve starts at the same point, but drops much steeper, lying below it.
And that visual, MR below D. That's key.
Oh, absolutely key. Especially for visualizing things like profit maximization on the AP exam.
And this must connect back to elasticity, right? That whole relationship between price changes and how much demand changes.
It absolutely does. That framework of elastic, unit elastic, and inelastic demand applies perfectly here. Remember, in the elastic part of the demand curve, where people are sensitive to price, lowering the price increases total revenue, so marginal revenue is positive. That's generally where a monopolist wants to be.
Makes sense. Increased sales, increased total money coming in.
Right. Then at the point of unit elasticity, total revenue is maxed out and MR hits zero. And in the inelastic part, where people aren't very responsive to price drops, lowering the price actually decreases total revenue, so marginal revenue is negative.
So they never want to produce in the inelastic range.
Generally, no. A profit-maximizing monopolist will always choose a price and quantity in the elastic range of its demand curve. It just makes sense.
Okay, let's get visual. Graphs are so central to economics, especially AP Econ. We need to see how a monopoly graph looks compared to perfect competition.
Perfect transition.
Yeah.
Comparing those graphs side by side really highlights the differences. Okay, perfect competition. Lots of firms, identical products. Each firm is a price taker. Their demand curve is just a flat, horizontal line at the market price. For them, demand equal marginal revenue.
They can sell all they want at that price.
Exactly. And crucially, in the long run, they end up producing where price equals marginal cost equals the minimum average total cost. That means they achieve both allocative efficiency, price equals marginal cost, and productive efficiency, price equals the minimum average total cost. It's like the benchmark.
The ideal scenario, efficiency-wise.
Right, theoretically. Now, switch to Unicorp, our monopolist. They're a price maker. They face the entire downward-sloping market demand curve, and as we keep saying, their MR curve is below that demand curve. So what happens? They produce less output than a competitive market would, and they charge a higher price. This leads straight to inefficiency. And the way we measure that inefficiency is deadweight loss.
That infamous triangle on the graph.
That's the one. It represents the value, the net benefit that society loses because the monopolist restricts output. It's not just the theoretical shape. It's lost well-being, lost transactions that could have benefited both buyers and the seller.
It's the cost of having that monopoly power, essentially. Okay, so let's zoom in on that typical monopoly graph. How does it show us exactly how they decide quantity and price, and where does profit and that deadweight loss fit in?
All right, the standard monopoly graph. Here's the rule. The monopolist maximizes profit by producing the quantity where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, MR equals MC. Find that intersection point, drop down to the quantity axis. Let's call that quantity QF.
Okay, MR equals MC gives us the quantity.
Right, but that's not the price. To find the price, PF, you go up from that quantity Q to the demand curve. That point on the demand curve shows the highest price consumers are willing to pay for that specific quantity, QF.
So they use NR and C for how much to make, but the demand curve for how much to charge.
Precisely. Now contrast that with the socially efficient point. That's where the demand curve intersects the marginal cost curve. D equal MC, or P equals MC. Let's call that quantity Q.
That's where society would ideally want them to produce.
Yes, because at Q, the value to the marginal buyer price equals the cost of producing that last unit, marginal cost. That's allocative efficiency. But the monopolist produces less, QF is less than Q, charges more, PF is higher than the price at Q, and usually earns economic profit if PF is above their average total cost at QF.
And the deadweight loss.
That's the triangle formed between the demand curve and the MC curve. For the units of output between QFQ, it visually represents the value lost because those efficient units aren't produced.
Got it. That deadweight loss concept is critical, you're saying.
Absolutely critical. Expect to see it analyzed on exams.
No, we often think monopolies equal huge profits.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's not always guaranteed. They can have different profit outcomes.
That's right. Just being a monopoly doesn't guarantee massive profits. 3 main scenarios. 1, economic profit. This happens if the price PF is higher than the average total cost, ATC, at quantity QF. On the graph, you see that nice rectangle of profit.
The green rectangle, often.
yeah.
Usually, yeah.
2, zero economic profit, break even. This occurs if PF happens to be exactly equal to ATC at quantity QF. They cover all costs, including opportunity costs, normal profit, but no extra economic profit.
It's still deadweight loss.
Still deadweight loss. Because they're still producing at QF, which is less than the efficient Q, the inefficiency remains. 3, economic loss. It's possible if demand is weak or costs are high, TF could be below ATC at QF.
They'd lose money on each unit.
Yes. They might shut down in the long run, but in the short run, they might keep operating if the price is at least above their average variable cost. But here's the absolute key takeaway, regardless of profit. A single price monopoly always produces less than the socially efficient quantity. QF less than Q, and therefore always creates deadweight loss. Every single time. That inefficiency is baked in.
Okay, let's talk about a really interesting kind of mind-bending variation. Perfect price discrimination, it sounds like. The monopolist's ultimate fantasy, charging everyone exactly what they're willing to pay.
It pretty much is their dream scenario, theoretically. Perfect price discrimination means the monopolist charges each customer the absolute maximum price that specific customer is willing to pay for each unit they buy.
Wow, so no single market price.
Nope. Think airline tickets sometimes, or maybe university tuition with financial aid. They try to estimate willingness to pay. In the perfect version, they nail it for everyone. What this does is it completely eliminates consumer surplus. All that extra value consumers usually get because the market price is below their maximum willingness to pay, gone. It all gets captured by the monopolist as profit.
Okay, so consumers get no surplus. What happens to the graph? You said MR is usually below demand.
Right, but here's the twist. With perfect price discrimination, the demand curve becomes the marginal revenue curve. D equals MR.
Wow.
Because they don't have to lower the price on earlier units to sell one more, they sell the first unit at the highest price, the second unit to someone else at a slightly lower price, their max willingness to pay, and so on down the demand curve. That price reduction effect vanishes.
So if D equal MR, where do they produce?
They still produce where MR equals MC. But since MR now equals D, or price, they produce where price equals marginal cost.
That's the socially efficient quantity? Q.
Exactly. Surprisingly, the perfectly price discriminating monopolist produces the allocatively efficient quantity. So, no deadweight loss.
Mind blown. Efficient output, but zero consumer surplus.
Precisely. All the surplus that exists is captured by the firm as profit. It's efficient in terms of quantity, but raises huge questions about fairness and equity. It's a tricky but really important case to understand for AP Econ.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, let's talk about a specific type, the natural monopoly. This feels different. Sometimes it just seems logical for only one company to provide something, right? Like maybe water or electricity.
That's exactly the idea. A natural monopoly happens when, due to huge economies of scale, one single firm can supply the entire market at a lower average cost than two or more firms could.
Economies of scale meaning the bigger they get, the cheaper it is per unit.
Right. Their average total cost keeps falling over a very, very large range of output. Think about the cost of laying pipes for water or power lines for electricity across a whole city. The key features are, first, those massive economies of scale, leading to a constantly downward-sloping average total cost ATC curve over the relevant range of output. Second, incredibly high fixed costs, that initial infrastructure investment. Third, often relatively low marginal costs. Once the pipes or wires are there, supplying one more house is relatively cheap.
So breaking them up would actually make things more expensive.
Yes, it would be inefficient to split them. You'd have multiple companies duplicating all that expensive infrastructure, and each would produce at a smaller scale, meaning higher average costs per customer. It just makes economic sense to have one provider.
But if it makes sense to have only one, and they have monopoly power, then regulation seems almost inevitable, doesn't it? Otherwise, they'd just charge super high prices and underproduce like any other monopolist.
Absolutely, because an unregulated natural monopoly will act like a standard monopolist produce, where MR equal MC, charge a high price way up on the demand curve, earn profits, and create significant deadweight loss. So governments almost always step in to regulate them. And how they regulate is a big topic, often showing up in AP-free response questions.
Okay, what are the main ways governments regulate them?
Well, there are basically three main approaches, moving from least intervention to most efficiency-focused. First, unregulated. The firm just does what it wants. MR equal MC output, high price, big profits, large deadweight loss. Bad for consumers, great for the firm's profit.
Okay, option one, do nothing, let the monopoly run wild.
Pretty much. Second option, average cost pricing, also called fair return pricing. Regulators force the firm to set price equal to average total cost, P equals ATC.
So they make zero economic profit.
Exactly. They break even, they cover all their costs, including normal profits, so they can stay in business. It leads to a lower price and more output than the unregulated outcome.
But still some deadweight loss.
Yes, there's still some deadweight loss because price is still above marginal cost. So output is still technically less than the absolute efficient level. But it's often seen as a practical compromise. Many utilities are regulated this way.
Okay, practical compromise.
Yep.
What's the third way? The economist's favorite.
That would be marginal cost pricing. Force the firm to set price equal to marginal cost, P equal MC.
Ah, that gives us allocative efficiency. Q, no deadweight loss.
Correct. From society's perspective, it's the most efficient outcome, maximum total surplus. However,
There's always a however.
there is. For a natural monopoly with its downward sloping ATC, marginal cost is typically below average total cost. So if you force them to price at P equals MC, the price will be less than their average cost. They will incur an economic loss.
They lose money on every unit. They wouldn't stay in business.
Not without help. To make marginal cost pricing work long term, the government would likely need to provide a subsidy to cover a loss.
So the regulator's dilemma.
Exactly. It's a trade-off. Do you go for perfect efficiency, P equals MC, but require subsidies, or accept some inefficiency, P equals ATC, but ensure the firm breaks even on its own? It's a tough balancing act. Efficiency versus survival, really. This is the last chapter. Check the answers to the practice problems you solved in the video. Got it, everyone. Hope you followed along with today's lecture. Now, let's break down those quiz answers and make sure everything we covered really sticks. You can grab the complete mind map Musica. It's a killer snapshot of today's lesson, plus a super detailed AP Economics textbook at www.aplusmap.ai. Ready? Let's get into those quiz answers.
Wow, okay. What a journey through the world of monopolies. We've really unpacked what they are, how they figure out pricing, why that marginal revenue curve is so weird, the whole deadweight loss issue, and then these really cool cases like perfect price discrimination and natural monopolies with all their regulatory challenges. My head's kind of spinning, but in a good way.
Yeah. It's a lot, but it connects together, right? Understanding these core ideas, being a price maker, why MR is below demand, what deadweight loss really represents, and how regulation tries to deal with natural monopolies, these are absolutely fundamental. Mastering these concepts is key, not just for doing well on something like the AP exam, but honestly for just making sense of so many industries and news headlines you see every day.
You guys handled that tough lesson really well today. We'll be back with our next lesson. See you next time.
We hope you're excited for what's next. For more learning materials, please visit aplusmap.ai.